So in all of these examples, we had somebody who was working 40 hours a week. Not everybody works 40 hours a week. So what is the calculation if they're not working 40 hours a week? Okay, let's look at this example here. The same steps, essentially, same steps. There is one additional step down here at the end, at least in this example that they give us. And I'll tell you why it's specific to this example and how it could be different depending on the circumstances and the policies of the employer. So this one, we've got Felicia. So she makes $1,600 a month, but she works, her normal work hours are 35 hours a week. So maybe she gets an hour off for lunch and they don't pay her for lunch. So she's working 8 to 4, takes her lunch 11:30 to 12:30. She doesn't get paid for that lunch. She's working 7 hours a day. She is paid semi-monthly. So how many pays per year is that semi-monthly? 24, exactly. It's twice a year, 24 pays. Twice a month, 24 pays a year. All right, this wording is a little funny. So I'm gonna go through it a couple of different ways. Overtime is calculated as regular hourly pay between 35 and 40 hours per week. What they mean is over and above her 35 hours, but up to the 40 hours, she's just paid a regular hourly rate. They don't have to pay her overtime for those hours between 35 and 40 hours a week. It's not her regular schedule, but if she works, like, say, 38 hours, she's not going to get time and a half for those extra 3 hours. She's just going to get her regular rate of pay, hourly rate of pay for those 3 hours, but we still have to calculate what that hourly rate of pay is. Okay, so they're calling it overtime here because it's over and above her regular working time, but it's not overtime per the FLSA. It's not over 40 hours a week. So she's going to get regular pay between 35 and 40 hours a week if she works between 35 and 40. Any hours above 40, though, she does get FLSA overtime. She'll get 1.5 hours, or she'll get paid 1.5 times her regular rate, but only for those hours over 40. So you've essentially got, and you'll see in the final calculation, you've kind of got 3 different pay buckets. You got her regular pay, ordinary pay, and then you've got her overtime between 35 and 40 hours during those weeks. And then you've got overtime that's over 40 hours during those weeks. Okay? So that's what they mean here by overtime is calculated as regular hourly pay between 35 and 40 hours a week, 1.5 times after 40 hours a week. Does that make sense? Okay, so it's kind of tiered. So of 16 hours of overtime, so that's the total amount. She worked 16 hours over and above her 35 hours per week that she had to work. So of those 16 hours, 6 of them were over 40.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Because she worked 35, it's only 5 hours left to get to 40, so how do you jump from 5 to 16? I'm confused there.
Sure. So she's paid on a semi-monthly basis. So we're including, and I don't know if this is, I did this with the last class and I got more blank stares. I don't know whether I should do this again, but you guys will get this. So if you think of a pay period, so it's semi-monthly. So let's say week 1, 2, 3, because if it's semi-monthly, it could go into the 3rd week, right? So we've got, we'll say 5 days. We'll forget about Saturday and Sunday. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. Let's say week 1, she worked 8 hours, 8 hours, 8 hours, 8 hours, and 10 hours. And then she worked 8 hours, 8 hours, 8 hours, 8 hours, and 12 hours. And then she worked 7 hours and 7 hours. And that's her pay period. So you can visualize that. If it's a 31-day month, you could see how it could go through, almost 2.5 weeks. So the total hours here would be 42, and I'm sorry for those of you over there, I don't know if you can see this. So total, 42 hours here, 44 hours in that second week, and then we just got her 14 hours, regular 14 hours here. So the overtime, she hasn't worked any overtime yet in this week, so we don't count anything, not over 35 hours, not over 40 hours. So that's just part of her regular salary. But in these 2 weeks, so in this first week, between 35 and 40 hours, she worked 5. And in this week, between 35 and 40 hours, she worked 5. And then over 40, she worked 2. Sorry, I know that's tiny. 40. Here, she worked 4. So she worked 10 hours, 10 of these 16. So in total, that's 16 hours of overtime. Because over her regular 35 hours. But 6 of them are over 40 hours. Put her over the 40 hours. So, is that helpful at all?
Yes.
Is it? Okay. Okay. Okay, that's good. I'm sorry, I started it too far over to the right. So that's how it could look. That's how her schedule could look, and how it could come to that amount. All right. So how do we calculate this? Okay, so we still have to annualize. So she makes $1,600 a month. Annualize that, she gets $19,200 a year. 1,600 times. All right. And then we're going to do our little side step here and figure out what she ordinarily would make on a semi-monthly basis if she didn't work any overtime. So here's our 1A calculation. So 19.2 divided by 26. No, 24. Sorry, I thought she was biweekly for a second. 24. Which comes out to 800. 800? It's exactly 800. Okay. 800 per pay. All right. Now we'll do step 2. We'll take the 19.2 divided by 52, which gets us to a weekly rate of $369.23. Now, it's going to be a little bit different. We're going to divide this not by 40, but by the regular hours worked, 35. Because this is what she ordinarily makes per hour, right? All right, so in this case, she's getting $10.55 per hour. And that's what we're going to base our overtime rate on. So 10.55 times 1.5, 15.83 per hour. Last part here. Now, you can see we've got, before, we had 2 items that we had to add together. Where is it? Our regular salary plus our overtime hours. But in this example, we've got 3 items to add together because she's got that bucket of hours between 35 and 40 as well. So we're going to add her 800, her regular pay period salary, plus she's got 2 separate categories of overtime hours. She's got 1 category of hours that's being paid at the regular rate. 10 of those hours, 10.55, and 6 hours times 15.83. So 105.50, 6 times 94.98, So all of those, 1,048. Is how much she's making in total. Questions? So I'll give you a little hint. It doesn't apply to the 35 hours a week. For these other ones, and you can take this or leave it if you want. You can jump from here to here. The annual amount to the hourly amount if they're working 40 hours a week. Because there are 2,080 hours, work hours, per year. If you take 40 per week times 52 weeks, you get 2,080. For somebody who works 40 hours. Now, obviously, if they're working 35 hours, it's not going to be the 2,080. But once you're comfortable with doing this, you can skip that weekly rate and get to the regular hourly rate by just dividing by 2,080. But be careful, because if they don't actually work 40 hours in a week, you're going to get the wrong amount, right? So it's just one of those little things. And when you work enough in payroll, when you've become familiar with it, that's kind of automatic. The 2,080 number just becomes automatic. Questions about this? How are we doing on time? Come on. Here we go. All right. Now,